Alright, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. This is a Ficus of some sort. The best identification I've ever gotten is Petersii. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. It's in the title. It was sold to me as something else, but I've been shown some proof that it's not that. Never really had any definitive idea that it might be the Petersii. It's definitely a ficus. Got a little special place in my heart of this. This is the first tree I bought when I went to Weigert's. It was on their little clearance rack. It's a root over rock project that they had. And I've been a clearance rack guy for a long time, so I went ahead and picked that up. That first year, I was over enthusiastic and I really did beat it to death. I did it right when I got home in the middle of January and just did all kinds of crazy rearranging to it and everything else. I haven't updated it for a while. I have several of these that I've grown from cuttings that I have updated since this one, but I haven't updated this one in over 2 years. It's had a rough couple of years. I haven't taken any pictures during that time. It's been kind of, the last time I updated it was early spring of 22, and then it just kind of didn't have a good year that year. But then not only that, the hurricane came through. It looked terrible pretty much all the way up until like last May or so. Had probably looked about like it does right now. And I kind of told myself, I said, I'm going to go through here and just cut all the growing tips off. Didn't really look healthy enough to even do a video on or anything, so I just did it. But I said I'll cut all the growing tips off and let it bush out a little bit more, let it regain some health. And I cut all the growing tips off, and that thing sat bare all the way through the end of the summer. I was probably going to throw it away with this year's spring cleaning, and then just out of nowhere in like December, when almost everything else except for my one type of microcarpa kind of is out there looking sick, not really doing much growing, all of a sudden it just kind of grew up. And all of this stuff now, it's still flexible, still looks new, as for, it's not the gray color, it's got the fresh color on it and everything. But all of that is actually from pretty much December and January, and now these leaves are getting kind of old. And I'm just figuring that with springtime actually just starting, and it's not super hot yet, I'll go ahead and give it a good prune, but try to leave a lot of the growing tips, mainly trying to take out some of the branches that I think have I've noticed a bunch have grown up in some unnecessary spots, reduce it a little bit, and just see if I can get it to regain some health. I do want to get some wire on the primary branches, especially this one. I did have that one down there at one point, and it keeps wanting to try to become like a dual apex tree, and I would much rather keep an apex and have these two be the first branches. Even though it is a little bit of looking like a split trunk there, I still like this look better than the other way around. Let's see what that looks like from the other side here too. Just looks a little more tree-like, a little unnatural the way it comes off the trunk like that. These really are odd species I haven't really gotten used to yet. And just like that, I was getting ready to start my pruning, and I found a little bit of scale. Right there, trying to get it up close enough in the shot. Right there, and this is usually what I do with it. I just pluck them off. From what I understand, once they've been plucked off, they can't reattach themselves again. So usually when I see them outside, I just pluck them off and throw them in the dirt. I did put that guy in the trash can. I also inspected everywhere else. I found two very, very small ones on that same branch. I didn't find any others. But making some pruning decisions here. First off, this branch is really close to the trunk. Probably really shouldn't appear to be super long or anything like that. And it's actually got 4 good growing tips coming off of it. But this would almost be straight, well, it's actually coming straight down from that. It just curls up because it's trying to find the sun. So I am going to pop that guy off. And one of the other things I think I've done to this tree before is wire some of the really, really small branches before they were ready. And so I'll probably just leave that guy like that. These out here, I think I'm going to leave all of this growth. And then I thought about snipping this one off, but I want to leave as many growing tips as I possibly can. So when I do get some wire on this primary branch here, instead of going this way with it where there's plenty of movement, I'll follow this one on out and get some movement in that one. But I am going to just take off one of these here, just because there's two coming off there, and I'll just wire that part down a little and let the rest of it hopefully grow on up. And then coming up here, because I plan to bend this one down and then make this the apex again, the only apex, I am going to take, this one had some older growth here, all that died back and I got a new shoot going that way, and then there's still some older growth kind of coming this way. And if I was counting, if it was a microcarpa, well, I'd just cut the growing tip off there, cut the growing tips off there too, and see what happens. But since I am trying to leave as many of these as possible, maybe I've just misjudged the species not being quite as vigorous as a microcarpa is. I'll take that long shoot off, and hopefully that'll just put some more energy into those two guys there. They are very spindly there, you can probably see. And then, let's see what the best angle would be to look at that. These two right here are not only growing almost straight up, but they're pretty much growing into that branch next to it as well. So I'm going to take off just those two. One thing it does do is it does get the strong apical growth, and it's got two smaller sub branches coming from here and then a stronger one going straight up there. But I think I want this to continue on to be the apex, so I'm going to cut off the stronger piece and leave some of the lateral growth there. And then coming around to this side here, got older growth. There's even some movement in this, and you'll see a little, a little movement in there and everything. And then this piece here just all of a sudden grows taller than all of that from back here. So I'm going to cut that off. And you also might be able to see this is when its little period of unhealth, it actually lost a little piece there. Just died back to there. Let's work that with these concave cutters just a little bit and try to get back to some live wood where that'll heal over a little bit better. And then just a little twig. Definitely didn't need concave cutters for that, but a little twig there coming straight down. And then again, one of these other branches that's really close to the Y here, this is trying to go and get really tall. And what that should do is create a little taper for this one and let that gain some thickness there as it goes on. Alright, and I got set back up like this. And after taking another look, I decided that this branch that I was planning on continuing out this one is kind of a little unnecessary. This wood over here has a little, is a little bit older and everything, and I can kind of just include that, and that was enough foliage for this side here or for that branch. Up here in the apex, it's a ton of movement, but I kind of had the two, probably should have got a little closer cut on that. They were coming out just, like a centimeter or two away from each other. So I decided to make that just one apex there. Alright, so the wire's on there. Pretty happy with the way it's looking. Think I left plenty of growing tips. New trunk line that I want, something like that, or a tree line, just the entire tree. These two branches are actually original branches, that were there when I got it, 5-6 years ago now. They're still kind of flexible. Hope it continues to regain some health. Alright, and then I don't know if I pointed it out or not, that tree I just had in here is the only root over rock I've ever bought. All the rest of them I've made myself. This one was from cutting from that tree I just had in here. I did update this in September of 2022, just before the hurricane came in, and none of these, all these trees I'm getting ready to show you today, none of these had a good hurricane. These did not like the hurricane one bit, and it really has not been all that healthy since either. But it does finally have some good strong growing tips going here. The amazing part is that the one part that should be the apex with these trees seems so apical, has almost nothing on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to wire these, and I'm going to treat it not quite like I would a microcarpet, in that I'm not going to prune it or anything. I'm going to wire it and actually stick the growing tip up towards the sun. Usually the microcarpets will just do that on their own. I'm starting to just kind of question how, you know, different kind of ficus do their thing. And instead of, I was thinking about pruning this down to about here. Instead, what I think I'm going to do is let it go in the hopes that it does take over, become a strong apex again, and then there's another little branch there coming out. Either I can cut it back to there or there after I just see how this thing develops for me today. Probably use some pretty thin wire. These are really spindly branches. I don't really want to get too much taller off the rock here, and it's just kind of time to do something. Alright, and then I went out to go get this one, and surprise, surprise, wouldn't you know it, look at that. Last time I did anything with this was in September of 2022 when I repotted it in this, and I think I've just had it sitting in the same spot ever since. I haven't really picked it up and done anything with it. Actually sits on a pallet, and so what, a pallet's about that deep, and it just reached down through the pallet and found some dirt. And maybe that even helps me figure out a little more about this species here. Perhaps they don't really like being in such shallow pots. I mean, seeing how as it just reached right through there just to find some dirt. But it also kind of made me decide what it is I'm going to do with it. I'm sure that's where this shoot came from. As soon as that found the soil below, this thing just took right on off. And then I'll go ahead. These two are coming right out at the same point anyway. Alright, and I'll just leave it like that. Lost quite a bit of root with me cutting that huge taproot off there. So, lost a lot of foliage too, but I'll leave these growing tips on there. It already had some movement in it. I think I might have gotten that even in the tree before I repotted it in September of a year and a half ago now. Left this little bit of growth here. See what happens. Still just in a little training pot and everything, so we'll see what becomes of it. Alright, and then I got this monstrosity here. Sometimes one of these trees that I took a look at sometimes out there, and I think, the hell was I thinking? But what I was thinking is something along the lines of this, but a lot more healthy. And this tree has not cooperated with that at all. I had like 3 possibilities I could do today. I was thinking about chopping it here. Got a little bit of healthy growth there. Thought about even going below that a little bit to here. And then I've even given some thought to coming all the way down to here where you got this little branch here. It does have it does have a decent Navarre going. Got several surface roots going in the right directions and everything. And then the last possibility was to go ahead and take a last ditch effort, try to wire this up a little more like I had envisioned, maybe prune some growing tips and try to force some growth. There is a little growing tip at the end of this guy here. Try and force some growth into it, and then just doing nothing out here. I thought about trying to clip off some of this legginess too, but I think I'm going to do nothing out here, and if this regains some health, I'll clip that back a little bit, and if it doesn't, I think I might just chop it right on down to there and let that come over, to become the new leader. All right, and put some wire on this secondary branch here and just kind of did it to, well, I don't know if you call that the apex, but the end of it. Realize that I'd much rather have it be about like that or so. And so I'm just going to do that with kind of a guy wire, I guess you would call it. Even though I'm not going to tie it to the pot, I'm just going to tie it to the tree back here. And I can adjust that as I need to. And then just a couple other things. And just nip that off out there. There are some growing tips here. This is actually the secondary branch that I wired, so I'd like to leave those, see if that can't push some growth. If this does not, me leaving that growing tip there, hopefully because now it's facing the sun, it starts to recover. And then I do want to keep some sap flow going this way. There's a couple tips in there that weren't doing much, and then that one, I'll go ahead and just cut that down shorter too. Leaving a big nub there, just, you know, if it gets some tips and starts growing, it will. If not, it'll either die back or I'll cut it off one day. Some really weak tips there. And again, my whole idea here is I'm just going to leave these the way they are. There is a chance that maybe all the sap flow just starts going this way and it gives up on all this crap up here. And if it does that, I'll cut it off, let that really grow. And then that'll actually just give me a tree with some movement in it. And some good taper as long as I can, you know, have enough patience and live long enough to grow that scar out that I'd have to make.